everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing Halloween themed flowers. It's a little bit late, we're kind of close to Halloween, but I thought I'd put out this video anyway. So I'm showing you two different flowers, or two different types of flowers that I made using certain techniques. Very easy to make Halloween inspired flowers for either your party or you just like Halloween and you want something year round. Whatever the case, I hope you like these. Alright, so to get started, I am first using Halloween scrapbook paper. So here, I bought this at Joann's for when they had the 20-cent paper sale, and so I only bought a couple sheets. And what I do is I use one piece of scrapbook paper, 12 by 12, for one flower, but you can totally make it with a full flower. You can use just a couple more sheets. You can make it however you like. But what I like about scrapbook paper is that it adds a little bit of touch to the flowers. Usually we're using solid color cardstock, so this adds a little pattern to it, makes it a little more special. And sometimes it's hard to find something that's Halloween themed that won't make it too messy. So I'll show you how I use my flowers. So the first one, I'm showing an example. I did pick up a number of different sheets, and so I didn't want to go through all of them when they're same sort of technique. So basically what I use is my round petal template. It's free, I'm attaching it below. So this flower template is just a basic circle sort of petal. It's round. So what I did was I added a couple layers, and then on the middle layer, the smallest layer, is where I added the scrapbook paper. And so this one is a spiderweb scrapbook paper. So what I did was I just cut out one layer, smallest layer, 6 pieces. That way I only used one sheet. And then I added just an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. I cut 2 centers from it, and then added a little spider in the middle. That way it's, you know, like a spider in its web. It makes it more Halloween-y, if that's even a word. So here's one example. The other one is more plain. So here I just added the center like the one here, but this time there's skeletons on the paper. So you can add a number of different things. You can put a skeleton, you can put a skull, and here you can add different things to it, however you like to try to dress up the flower, make it sort of Halloween themed, and use it for your event. What I'm going to make today is one using this piece of paper for a flower like this, same technique, but with this pattern. Okay, so what I have here is the petals that I'll use, and first I used a 12 by 12 piece of paper, and I cut 2 sections of that fringe paper that I like to use for my center. So this one will be bigger than here. Here I use a letter size sheet. This will be 12 by 12 inch size paper. So here again is that paper that I showed earlier. And what I did was I made sure that I cut it so that the petals will have the pumpkins facing down. That way they're not upside down. When I glue them all together, they should all be facing a center. So I have 6 pieces of this cut from one piece of paper. This is a 4.5 size piece of paper. Excuse me, this is a 4.5 size petal. So if you're looking at the templates, you're wondering what petal I used. This is 4.5. The next layer is 5 inches wide. So here I have 2 sets of the 5.5 inch petal. So let me divide that, kind of stuck it all together. And I'll show you why I have 2 sets rather than 1 set as I normally do. And lastly, I have a 7-inch wide hexagon. So basically you put this together like any other flower that I have on my YouTube channel. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the slits that I use, and then put together the paper flower. And obviously after that you just glue all the pieces together like this. Alright, so I'll do that for all my petals. Okay, so now that I have my petals prepped, it's just basically gluing them to the hexagon center. Or the hexagon base, excuse me. Right, and this process is fairly easy, it's straightforward, but what I do is I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the bottom and try to space each petal out evenly. So because I have a little bit of space here and there, I try to make sure that each petal, as it's glued, it has the same amount of space, so that it helps me glue fairly evenly. You want to make sure that you can space them out well enough, because in the end you want them to look sort of uniform and even. Right, but first, now that I have my first petal layer glued, almost, you can see that there are spaces in between. Right. So you can go on, if you have, this is a 5.5 inch wide petal, you can go with the next step, a layer of 5 inch wide petals, and you can do that if you like, but what happens is, like in this flower, there's little gaps here. Right, and so if you don't like that, you can always add another layer of that 5.5 inch petal in this case, right? So basically all I'm saying is that you can add a second layer of the same size petal. So that's why I have 12 rather than 6. If you don't mind the look of the gaps in between, go ahead and go with only one layer. But if you do mind, go ahead and just add one more layer. It's just a few extra steps, but I think that the effect is worth it. Okay, so now you see that it's a little more circular. This is essentially what it looks like. It's a little more bulky, but the outside layer doesn't look as, you know, it sort of looks like it's unfinished when it has those gaps right here. It's all preference. If you don't want to add another layer, I think it looks perfectly fine. But then essentially you just keep going with your second layer. The second layer, I don't add that many petals. I just assume that it looks fine because it's in towards the center rather than out. It's in towards the center rather than outside. Kind of gives the look of your flower. It kind of makes a difference in the look of your flower overall if it's fuller on the outside. But I think that's all preference. Okay, so now those are all those black petals. Now what I have is that scrapbook printed paper layer. So this paper is quite thin, thinner than the cardstock you'll use, so just be careful with the glue. The other day I burned myself badly enough that I had to go to the ER, so I'm trying to be a little more mindful of how I'm gluing, where I put my fingers. Alright, so now it looks like any other flower. All you need to add is the center. So you can do a lot of different things with this. If you want to add a jack-o'-lantern in the middle, if you want to add maybe some other element like a spider or a bat in the middle, you could do that. I'm basically just taking one sheet of 12 by 12 paper that I've cut into 2 pieces and just rolling a center. So essentially I think it's sort of plain, but I don't mind it. I think orange is a very bright color, so it can stand out on its own. But basically you glue the center and roll it like any other video that I've done. I'm mentioning that because this is not anything sort of revolutionary. If you're new to my channel, please take a look at any of the other videos that I have. So I am just going to roll it. And as I roll, I just add a little bit of glue. Can't remember if I mentioned this, but centers are kind of messy. So, you know, it would be perfect if they were rolled out nice and flat. But what happens is when you glue it with hot glue, it adds bulk to the center of the flower. the portion that you're rolling. So it doesn't always come out nice. You can see there's glue everywhere. It usually oozes out when you are pressing it. So just do your best. A lot of times you don't see that since you're gluing down the center in the center of the flower. Right, so here, that's good enough, but I want to do another sheet just to make it fluffier. Right, so when you're done, it's nice and fluffy. You can fluff it out a little bit more if you like. Just add some glue to the bottom. Whoops. And then stick it on. And then stick it on. You can press in towards the bottom of the center, like where you glued everything else. Just press it in a little bit more and also fluff it out. So there you have it. That is one thing you could do to make your flowers a little bit Halloween themed, right? Just by adding one piece of paper that is, you know, Halloween themed. Either it's pumpkins like this one, spider webs like that one, or just any other type that you have. So it's nothing difficult, but it's just a little way to mix it up. You can do however you like. You can add just one layer of paper, but in between, so it's a large layer, and then the middle layer can be that paper, scrapbook paper, whatever you have, and then another layer of the black, and then you can add different centers to it. You can add different little cutouts to make it more Halloween themed if you want. Please let me know if you have any questions. I have more videos coming. I had planned to have them all this week, but again, I had to go to the ER with my finger, so they will kind of be released on top of each other if that's okay. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much. Bye.